So, astronauts always have a lot of work to do. They deal with breakdowns on the ship, go into outer space to repair something, conduct experiments, keep daily records, report about everything to the center of the Earth, and sometimes meet unknown mysterious things from outer space. Let's see which ones. So you're alone in a small spaceship. You have our big planet on one side and the boundless black space on the other. You're checking instruments, doing some astronaut things, when you hear a strange knock. Someone or something is knocking on your ship. You realize that this is impossible, but then the knocking repeats. You look out of the porthole window, but don't see anyone. Then you report the incident to the dispatcher on the ground. No one knows what it could be. You've been training your stress tolerance and psyche for many years, but now you're a little nervous. Astronaut Yang Liwei first heard a mysterious knocking sound in 2003 when he was inside a small spacecraft as part of the first Chinese space mission. Yang said the sound was like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He also noticed that the knock came neither from the outside of the ship nor from the inside. He couldn't determine its source. When Yang returned to Earth, he tried to reproduce the knock so that experts could discover its nature. But no one managed to find out what it was. A similar story repeated itself with other Chinese astronauts in 2005 and 2008. Yang's colleagues suggested that the ship could make the sound due to the hull's expansion or compression. The temperature inside the ship was very different from the temperature in outer space, and this could cause the metal hull to make a sound similar to a knock. Hey, don't knock it. Another mysterious sound was heard by NASA astronauts on Apollo 10 while orbiting the Moon. It was a strange whistle of unknown origin. One of the astronauts described it as cosmic music. The information about this incident was classified for a long time, but recently NASA has explained the mystery. The whistling sound was just some radio interference. But it doesn't mean there are no creepy sounds in space. NASA has launched many research probes into the boundless depths of space. One probe recorded the sounds of Jupiter, another the sounds of Saturn. The third probe recorded dust particles and small rocks crashing into the ship. Technically, these are not sounds because sound waves cannot exist in space. The ships recorded radio emissions from various objects, and then scientists transformed these waves into sounds. And the coolest thing is that you can find all this on the internet. There were many rumors and legends about Neil Armstrong and his landing on the Moon. One of the most popular myths tells how the astronaut saw strange spaceships on the Moon. The astronaut never commented on this case, and his testimony and the data he gave to the communication center on Earth was classified. But, according to the legend, Armstrong said creepy words when he was on the Earth satellite and saw something. "These babies were huge, sir. Enormous. You wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out here, lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the Moon watching us." After that, he returned to the spaceship and flew to Earth. Yep, that smells like an urban legend for sure. In 2005, the commander of the International Space Station, Leroy Chow, saw strange lights during a spacewalk. He described them as a set of white lights that rose from Earth and passed through him. His colleagues reported that it could have been an optical illusion caused by many fishing boats with searchlights along the coast of South America. Leroy saw the lights from the boats refracting and passing through his helmet. He doubted this version because he was at an altitude of 230 miles and the boats had to have some pretty powerful lights. But the astronaut was also skeptical about the extraterrestrial origin of these lights. One of the most common mysterious phenomena associated with space is glowing lights, but sometimes people notice something more material. For example, NASA astronaut Story Musgrave saw a tube that was flying in space, moving like a snake. He suggested it was a living creature from another planet or something like that. Of course, no one believed him. People assumed that the astronaut had seen some detached part from the ISS or a piece of space debris, like a hose or a tube. But the astronaut was sure that this tube had been moving like a living organism. However, the version with flying garbage sounds much more legit. During the Apollo 11 mission, astronauts reported strange light flashes in their eyes. The members of the Apollo 12 and 13 teams saw the same thing. The strangest thing was that they saw these flashes even with their eyes closed. After that, many astronauts reported seeing bright lights. They saw flashes before going to bed and in dark rooms. Some of them were bright, and some were dim and had different colors. During spacewalks, they repeated every few minutes. Scientists conducted experiments on Earth to figure out the nature of this strange phenomenon. As a result, NASA concluded that the astronauts had seen cosmic rays of an unknown nature. Researchers suggested that the particles of these rays directly affected the receptors of the retina. The astronauts' optic nerves felt the radiation, and their brains reacted to it with light flashes. During the Gemini 4 space mission, astronaut James McDivitt saw a strange geometric object in space, similar to a tin can with a pencil sticking out of it. As soon as the media found out about it, newspapers started claiming that James had seen a ship of another civilization. Then, a few years later, the astronaut refuted this theory. He saw some photos taken inside the ship and noticed the same tin can on it. It turned out that this was the reflection of some bolts in the window pane. By the way, this was one of the many times astronauts confused the details of the ship with some weird space stuff. In 1962, astronaut John Glenn was inside the Friendship 7 spacecraft when he noticed some strange things outside. They looked like tiny glowing fireflies. Glenn immediately reported this to NASA's command post. The dispatchers didn't know how to comment on this message, so the nature of the cosmic fireflies remains unsolved. But then, almost a year later, astronomers found out what it had been. At first, they thought the fireflies were pieces of metal torn off some part of the ship. But then they realized the glowing lights were droplets of frozen liquid that shifted and cracked in outer space. One of the strangest cases in the history of early space travel occurred during the mission of the Gemini 6 spacecraft on December 16, 1965. There were two astronauts, Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford, on board. They were preparing to return to Earth, but saw something strange in outer space. Wally contacted the Mission Control Center and reported he was observing an unknown object similar to a satellite. It was moving from north to south, somewhere in the polar orbit of the planet. The object was approaching them, and the astronauts could see the details. It was an unknown spaceship with a pilot dressed in a red suit. Wally heard through the radio that voices in the command center became tense. No one knew what it was and how to react to the unknown ship. Then, at that moment, they began to hear what sounded like music. Somehow, the song Jingle Bell started playing on the radio. Wally Schirra performed it on the harmonica, and the command center realized this was all a hoax. Schirra and Stafford cooked up this Christmas gag a few weeks before the flight. They wanted to cheer up their colleagues on Earth by saying they had seen Santa Claus in a spaceship. When Schirra finished the song, the guys from Earth relaxed and said it was too much. It's still one of the most famous jokes astronauts have ever played. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.